EES, which is pronounced EASE, is an acronym for Engineering Equation Solver. EASE provides property information for many different substances, including real fluids, ideal gases, and air-water mixtures. The Incompressible substance library in EASE provides the properties of solid and liquid substances that can be modeled as being incompressible. And as a result of this property model, most of these properties are only a function of temperature. You can add additional property data to the Incompressible substance library, or you can modify the data that already exists. The data that together make up the Incompressible substance library resides in lookup tables that can be accessed in the folders that can be found in your EASE directory under User Lib, and then EASE System, and finally Incompressibles. So here you can see there are folders for each of the categories of incompressible materials. For example, the metals are all found in the metals folder, and so forth. If you look in the metal folder, you'll see that there's a lookup table for each of the metal substances that are currently available. So here let's just open one, for example the one corresponding to brass, and you can see in this lookup table the underlying data that are used in the model for brass in the Incompressible substance library. If you go through this table from left to right, you can see the first column is temperature. That column must be labeled T and has units of Kelvin, K. And then this is followed by a separate column for each property that's included in the model. The names and the units for each column must correspond to those shown in this table. EASE will convert the units of the properties returned by the functions in the Incompressible library to the correct units based on the unit system settings. However, it assumes that the underlying data are provided in the table with these units shown in this table here. Also note that not all the properties must be provided for each substance. So for example, there's no data in this lookup table for surface tension or vapor pressure for brass. Also, the properties that are provided do not need to be provided at all of the temperatures that are included in the temperature column here. EASE is going to check and see if the property is available, and also determine the range of temperatures over which it is available based on the data in this table. If you go all the way towards the right, you can see that you can also include a references column. This column contains string data, and it includes information about the references that are used to obtain the data. So the first row in this column can contain a general note that pertains to the material as a whole. So here you'll see there's a caution that the properties of brass might vary depending on its composition. And then the remaining rows provide the references for each property, and they are included here in an order that corresponds to the property columns. So for example, in this particular table, entropy data are provided in column 11, and therefore the reference corresponding to the entropy data must be provided in row 11 of the references data. Finally, there are several constants that can be entered for each incompressible substance, and these are listed in the column labeled constant ID. The values of these constants can be added in a companion column labeled constants. So here, for example, the molar mass of brass has been specified to be 321.4, and that's the value that will be returned if you use the molar mass function in EASE for the substance brass. If we select brass from within EASE, we can see the outcome of the structure of the lookup table that we were just looking at. So for example, if we select the function surface tension, we're told that no data exists for this property. If we select property information, we can see a list of those properties that are included in the table, and then the temperature ranges. And if we select references, we can see where the data comes from. So this is the information in that references column. All this information is pulled from these lookup tables. If you want to change these data for an existing substance, or if you want to add a new substance, it's only necessary to modify an existing lookup table or to add an entirely new lookup table. So for example, maybe we'd like to add properties for a new substance called gunk. First, create a lookup table named gunk. The first column must be temperature, T in Kelvin, and then the next columns can be whichever properties we want to include. So here maybe density and heat capacity, and they are labeled as in this table and using the appropriate units indicated in this table. Then we'll add the temperatures at which you have data, and then also the data points. So here we'll put in 5 density data points, but only 3 heat capacity data points. We can add another column called references, and then specify here that the entries will be string values in this particular column, and then put whatever overall information about gunk you want in row 1, and then the reference for density data must go in row 2 because density is in the second column, and heat capacity in row 3 because heat capacity is in the third column. And now save the lookup table in Ease lookup file format, so either as a .lkt file here, or if you're using the 64-bit version of Ease, you would use a .lkt64 file. You need to save the table in the correct subfolder of this incompressible folder. So here we're going to put the table in miscellaneous, and I guess that will then categorize gunk as a miscellaneous material, and we'll make sure that the name of the table corresponds to the name of the substance. So here we'll save it as gunk.lkt. Now if we start a new instance of Ease and we navigate to Incompressible and select miscellaneous, you can see that gunk is one of the properties, one of the materials that are listed. If you select property information, you'll see the temperature ranges of the 2 properties that we added, and you'll see that they're different based on the data that we provided. And then if we select references, you're going to see the notes that we entered. One thing to keep in mind is that it's important that you keep a copy of this lookup table or any lookup table that you've added or modified in another location, so that it's not accidentally deleted when you reinstall or when you update Ease. This is one of a series of tutorials meant to describe the operation of the Ease software. If you'd like to get more information about Ease, obtain the software, or access more of these tutorials, please go to the website fchartsoftware.com. These tutorials are excerpted from the book Mastering Ease, which can also be obtained from the Fchart software website.